I'm delighted to see a standing room only crowd, and it speaks to the fact that our guest is the President of Ecuador. 7 years ago, I had the idea that there should be a center on Latin America to challenge the perception that Latin America is not an important region. I felt that we needed to look to Latin America for what is good for the future of the United States and the world. And I think in this room today, additionally with the President with us, it proves my point. Ecuador and the United States have a long relationship. And with President Moreno's presence here, I think we're beginning a new chapter in that relationship. The United States is Ecuador's main trading partner. A key export, which I hope everyone in this room will avail themselves of tomorrow, is roses. They're also known for their tuna, which is equally useful year-round. The President will give us his report from his most recent conversation with President Trump. He shared that with a few of us, and it's very important for us to hear about how the two leaders exchanged ideas and made their promises of working together. Since President Moreno took office, he has doubled down on his efforts to fight corruption, to bolster security, and adopt a market-oriented economic model to strengthen democratic institutions and governance. He's renewed this relationship with the United States, and that will be highlighted as he gives us his remarks. Please welcome the President Constitucional de la República del Ecuador.
Speaker. Okay, now we have the microphone. We have an International Commission Against Corruption, and it's very important to highlight this relationship, and we hope that we can continue growing. This is what we hope for, and we need support. Your support is necessary. And we have to work with international institutions, with many nations to combat this issue of corruption, the scourge that it is. The truth is, I think this is happening to all of us. In our countries, we feel comfortable. People are content, happy. And we have common problems, issues that are affecting all of us. And so we are very comfortable being here. And revolutionaries also have come here. They love coming here. They like coming here to come here in camouflage or in other dress to enjoy what it is, this country. If it's changed, yes, it has changed. Things have changed. Come up here, Peter. Everyone's working for peace. You know, Peter here is working. He's a good friend. I'm glad he's here with us, present. What was I talking about? Change. Yes, if there's been change, there's definitely been change. We humans are designed to change. Anatomically, we are changing. Our molecules, our cells are changing with the environment around us. Our own physiology, our psychology, as well as our spiritual side. What's important is this change would elevate us, and that we would recognize that this change is something that has to happen for all of us. We have to be going towards and enthusiastic for equality. It's, a paradigm. So there in heaven, we believe that we will all be equal, but equality can be can be equally boring. But we all have to be equal. We are all equal. That the world be flat, be on the same level. All the Nordics, those with blue eyes and blonde hair, there's this paradigm, not just for them. For the lack of diversity, it would be horrible. And we have to all be able to live. And it's clear that we are all diverse. We have different opinions. And it's just not the truth. In Ecuador, there isn't just one person who is the owner of truth. No, it's great that it's not like that. The truth is, we really do have to look at what the real reality is. And that's really difficult. And that's when the truth, has multiple rationalities, lots of criticisms, of opinions, hopes that the world would be like that, so we can share it. And I'm not saying take it on, but come near. And that's why we in our government, we have determined that a fundamental policy is dialogue. We have to have dialogue to think about what others are thinking. That'll make it richer, be more inclusive, and without having to think about it in absolute terms. In which a man is saying, this is always the truth. We always have to seek out truth. But fleeing from those that think different from us, we have to flee from those who think that they have the ultimate truth. And that has been a beautiful thing that I have been able to do in power in the Ecuadorian government and learning in that. The truth is, what old studies have shown, things that we've seen over centuries, some 800 years, over the past 8,000 years. It's that absolute truth is always accompanied by lies. We have people who are exactly against what is the truth.
That's why extreme left always comes before other people who want to get into power. That's why we must never think we are the owners of the truth. On the opposite, we have to ask a friend, other people like you who are smart in other skills, what's your criteria of truth? What is your truth? Tell me about your truth. Enrich my truth with your truth. And in that moment, you could, I think that's what you can practice, what is the best generosity of spirit, because that truth can make you change your opinion. So thanks to your input, we can change our opinions. And so this conversation, and that's why I want to thank you. And Michael, you are helping me with this. I was saying a little while ago that maybe you know him, maybe not. He's more famous than Brad Pitt. He says that people fall in love with him. Don't let his wife know about this. This stays among us. Don't let anybody know this. But this is in private. We like him very, very much because he helped us enormously in our efforts to renew our country. He will also be the godfather in for my gringo grandchild. I have a gringo grandchild. He's from New York, my gringo grandchild. And says New York is a city that never sleeps. So does my grandchild who doesn't sleep. So he agreed to be the godfather, and I'm hoping he will pay for college as well. But I guess he said only he will be paying for maybe the wedding. I don't know. But that's how we treat ourselves. We are friends. We like each other. And we also want to express our gratitude to the new ambassador for helping us with all the problems that befall our countries. So have I changed? Yes, of course I changed. I changed what I thought as soon as I faced reality, because sometimes when you face reality, as Serrat, a Catalan singer, says, truth is never bad. What it doesn't have is a remedy, but it's not bad. But we have to search for the truth, and that's what my government is doing. We search for the truth, and I think we are going towards, we have highlights of truth. We are wanting to recover institutionality, freedom of expression that is not given by the leader, but it's the population, to get back the decision, for example, recover constitutionality, decisions that don't have to be taken by the president, by the executive power, the legislative and the judicial power have to be in charge of their own powers. The economic aspects, I think you all know about them. I think that our Minister of the Finances is already scared of what we have learned, but they lied to us, even to me, who I was the vice president the first mandate. We were told that everything was transparent, that I should take care of social aspects and not worried about economics. But I think that I am very fortunate of having the advisors I have nowadays. I don't know much of economics. I don't know about money. My wife is the one that takes care of our checking account. And I think it happens to all of us. Either directly or indirectly, it happens to all of us. So I didn't worry about economics. I trusted in others. And because I was working honestly, transparently, I thought that everybody was working for the benefit. But it wasn't like that. Lies in the size of a country. The foreign debt is 25% of GDP, which is, well, you can handle it. And it gives you the idea that you're, like the table is set. Is how do we bring the country back up? But it was over the $70 billion that for a country is growing very little. It is enormous. It is very difficult to get out of that. There was no transparency in the figures, not even in the economics numbers or social aspect numbers. The institutions then were lying to us by telling us that the people were coming out of poverty. And just to give an example, if a person, for example, had put cement in the floor of their very poor adobe, they were no longer poor. So those were the parameters. If somebody received a cell phone, for example, as a gift, then that person was no longer poor. So that was a lie. Now we're doing the correct and transparent assignment of things. But we are optimists. We have faith in the future. And of course, we cannot do away. We need the assistance of this country. We always wanted to help. Sometimes it bothers us a little bit, but it's good. It's also good. We need that maybe sometimes. We cannot feel that everything is well. Perfection is the closest there is to imperfection. We were talking the other day with Donald Trump yesterday, and we've talked to him earlier very quickly, but yesterday we had more time to talk, and we talked about different topics. First of all, we talked about this enormous struggle we're going against corruption, against drug trafficking, against terrorism that is clothed as revolutionary. But we're also fighting poverty. Those are some of the fights that we, as I told President Trump, are asking for a hand. Opening President Trump, I don't know if it's something negative or positive, but he is very direct. You know exactly what he thinks. And I am sort of like him, but I tend to have to ask for forgiveness right after it. But he directly told me, yes, we will help you in this. As he generally is. The moment he disagrees with what you say, he hears you and he says what he will say. And, he may call the minister, but he called everybody. And he said, here, I want you to fix this. Someone else fix something else. Fix this other thing. So that filled me with hope. We will continue in the correct path. I heard a revolutionary man said once that the way to overcome imperialism was to fill the children and the young men with drugs. I never had anything so mean. That would be to stifle the future of the young people or the youth to win a political battle. That should be lost. Ecuador was becoming Venezuela. If somebody wanted to know what would have happened with Ecuador, it's Venezuela. Yeah. Paradise, right? So says the authoritarian and illegal and despotic governor of that country. We have acknowledged President Juan Guaido as the legitimate president of Venezuela. That is how President Trump acknowledges as well, and we agree that we have to take the proper steps in order for this Venezuelan people can free themselves from him. Venezuela cannot wait anymore. Venezuela, unfortunately, already went through what Hawkins called the border of success. That is the site before you go into a black hole, where time ends and things extend and nothing has a solution. Memory is lost of everything. And Venezuela has already gone into that black hole, and it will be very difficult to recover it. And that's why with Ambassador, I don't know if he's here. Is he here? Well, he was here. I had a chance to talk to him a little bit. It will be very difficult. We have to, all of us work together as we are doing, Colombians, Ecuadorians, Chileans, Peruvians, to receiving warmly those who are hiding from this dictatorship that is fighting against their humanity. And this has happened. We are not xenophobics at all, but for our economies, people used to migrate from a poor country to a rich country, and that was the typical regular transit of people who wanted to leave a country who was, poor. But sometimes they are moving now from another poor country, which entails much complexity. Of course, we are receiving our Venezuelan brothers and sisters. We've done it warmly, as we've always done, with support, lending them a hand. But financially, of course, that has difficulties. And we talked about this with President Trump, and he has offered assistance for that and for drug trafficking with intelligence, training, equipment, assets, aircraft, vessels, everything we need to fight against terrorism and corruption. Last week, we learned something new, that two Iranian, a couple, had arrived in Ecuador, and we saw that they were leaving with a falsified Israeli passport. What was the purpose? We can imagine what the purpose was, of course. Ecuador decided to renew our international relations. We have extended the red carpet to those who have been our main trade partners and friends. The United States, you may have, 2 million Ecuadorians and their descendants who love our country, who have learned to love this country, who has given them so many opportunities, because if there's something that the U.S. is a country of opportunities, not of equality. And maybe that's good, because at the moment when we are all the same, we will not, nobody will be satisfied with anything. Diversity is wonderful, it's marvelous. And I would like to remind you, to have a world where everybody is the same, where everybody, in a world that is flat, it would be not worth living, not even one day. And that's why we have decided to leave, and that's why we're here right now, going to something that we believe is safe port, while our brothers and sisters in Venezuela will need much assistance on the day after. Day after the Maduro falls, there will be work for all of us. I know there will be very much happiness, but they will be needing assistance, and I hope we are all willing to give it. We also talked about trade issues with President Trump. He understood very well. He talked to his minister to help us with the tariffs that are charged for different products, such as tuna. The most delicious and tastiest in the world, the roses from Ecuador, the most beautiful roses of the world. The cocoa is the most delicious in the world, because cocoa comes from Ecuador. It has been proven that cocoa comes from Ecuador. That's where 5,000-year-old cocoa beans were found in Ecuador. Shrimp, the best shrimp in the world, are from Ecuador. And then many other things that you here would want to have brought to our country. I know you will be very happy, because for the export, shrimp exports has increased tenfold. And our roses, they come to hotels, for example. I have been able to stay in luxury hotels right now, and I see today a big platter, vase of flowers, and it says under, these are all Ecuadorian roses. In the Radisson in Moscow, one of the jewels built by Stalin to, cause envy among the Western world. That's the Radisson now, and they have also a presentation of roses, and it also says all from Ecuador. We have so many products, and we have a beautiful country, so beautiful that the closest location to the sun was chosen to be Ecuador.
Just if you let me just to finish, excuse me. My spouse is here to wink at me to tell me to shut up. Ecuador, yes, is close to the sun. We are on the equator, and the perpendicular lines that hit the part of the planet where we are located produces incredible roses, beautiful. It's incredibly diverse, our country. Ecuador, you find everything: languages, races. The indigenous groups that we have to respect. And even though we have this desire to produce and to move ahead, this has to be for all Ecuadorians. And we also have the protected areas in our country. 1/3 of our land is protected. And whenever you have free time, please come visit our country, the heritage, the world heritage sites we have in our own country. We have our volcanoes. As you go through the Andes mountains, there you find eternal snow in those mountains. And then you are in the Amazon region. And later on, you're in the coast on one side, just unending coasts. And then the marvelous, beautiful, natural wonder that is the Galapagos Islands. And so when I was there, and I was seeing the small differences in Ecuador in the biological and anatomological differences when it came to Darwin's theory of evolution, that it was found there. The amazing scientist that he was of the last century, maybe the most brilliant of that time among his colleagues as scientists. A friend said to me, Hawkins in particular said to me, that Ecuador has so much to offer and it is incredible. Thank you so much.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, señor presidente, por este
Thank you very much for your words, Mr. President. And thank you to and congratulations to all of the ambassadors from the United States, Michael, who have served and are serving. Also, Ambassador Baki, who just came to Washington a week ago. You spoke, Mr. President, about your visit with President Trump, and it was very important for both countries. There were some announcements during that visit. Those who are going to go visit in the next few months, the joint work through the OECD. What are the next steps and the results that you're seeking along this path with this very important relationship? Yes, thank you so much for that question. Our expectations is to build up trust across the international community, and in an operation that we're going for economic growth with the IBD, the IMF, among other international institutions. We've created conditions for long-term credit that is more economical, that's actually payable. And the chukriya, how do you say that? How do you say chukriya? In which you have to pay too much interest on the loan that you've been given. I don't know exactly how to say it, but when the loans are just too excessive. Yeah, it's so good to have others to help me along here. Oh, it's loan sharks, but those who are lending, and loan sharks. The only thing that I remember from school and when it comes in English was the name of the professor, the instructor that I had. Let's talk about that, about the support that we need from the international community. It's advanced, it's been reestablished. And it's the first time that I hear from the IMF about making real transformation at the social level. And it's clear that people are going forward in a smart way, not just for some countries to be rich, but that all people be rich. And the direct result of this, in this vicious cycle, is that it actually becomes a circle that benefits all. And I also talked with Mr. Trump yesterday. That we talked about tariffs. And we can't forget that the United States was the second country to recognize our independence as a republic. And our foundations, the principles that we were built on, we had this giant, this beautiful people supporting us. And we have to move forward on the shoulders of giants. And that's why we love this country, the United States. Thank you. Mr. President,
Sobre Venezuela y la situación en
in your
hay más de 5
you talked about the thousands of Venezuelans that have left the country. It's a tragedy. It's a global tragedy, in a situation in which the Atlantic Council, the Adrian Arsht Latin American Center, has been looking for a peaceful and democratic resolution to this issue. So Ecuador has been one of the countries that have received the most refugees, and the Rockefeller Foundation and the Adrian Arsht Center are working for a humanitarian meeting specifically on the situation in Ecuador. So what are your thoughts on a resolution to this crisis in this key moment in Venezuela's history? I'm not going to give you easy questions. No, that's fine. That's fine. Well, as you have asked me what you felt like asking me, I'm going to answer how I feel like answering. Well, we've gone the distance that had to be covered when it comes to democracy in this democratic world. We've had appropriate contacts. The United States has been quite strong in the measures that it has put in place, in which a Ecuadorian president has proposed at the Latin American level a doctrine that is known as, casually, as Dr. Burgos Aguilera. And what he said when it comes to defending citizenship, the protecting citizens, this doctrine, using police forces, it's like when a police officer goes up to a person who is committing a crime. They say, you can't be doing this. And then there are higher levels in which we cannot distance ourselves from taking on this behavior that is going on. That is, yeah. I think this has been the most confusing way to respond to your question, but there it is. I have one last question for you, and then we have time for one question from the audience. I wanted to ask you about reforms. There's lots of reforms that you have started to implement in the last few months. There's also been some protests in Ecuador that happened a few months ago as well. And I'd like to ask you about what the plan is that the government has for these economic needs, as well as the social demand that you're seeing in your country. What are your thoughts around all these things at this moment? Well, as you all know, Ecuador took a historic decision to turn away from the perverse acts of a government that was burying our country. They turned away from this perverse group that was serving itself and with the gasoline scheme that they had set up, in which they were obtaining the gas and then selling it 2-3 times higher level to the countries nearby. And so there's also been the issue of cocaine production that's been easy and cheap to produce, and the powers that are acting for themselves. But they can't act against the government only. They can't act against democracy. They have to be working for democracy. And all of us, all Ecuadorians, the majority of them, we're saying to certain groups, even those who were protesting, that they wanted to support a democratic state against drug traffickers, against we have our poor brothers and sisters from Venezuela that can't find work. And you can imagine the protesters acting against a government that all it was trying to do was trying to resolve a problem. And we've dialogued with this, about what the other government had carried out against our people.
Whether you can do things, if it takes you a long time, as long as you do what's correct, well, it can wait. And we are continue to dialogue with them. We're putting over the table everything so that everybody knows what the government is proposing. Will we do it? Of course, we'll try to solve these difficulties. I was saying recently that my purpose in life was not to be a politician. I never liked participating in politics. I don't believe in those who are non-politicals, though. I don't believe that. I don't. We cannot practice a policy of conformism. We cannot not do anything in a world that there's so many things that have yet to be changed. We need some labor changes as well in our country, our labor laws. If I'm correct, they're 60 years old for the modern world, and where technology works so much. We have to change. We can't forget that a cell phone is more advanced than the one that Captain Kirk had in the Enterprise. It's then Star Trek, of course. It's things. Technology nowadays overcomes many things. I was thinking Dick Tracy back in Dick Tracy times. That detective, he would look at someone and would speak to that person on the phone. We thought that's never going to happen, and it's happening every day. So whatever we expect of the future will always be less than what the future will bring. That's why labor laws have to be changed in a way that people don't lose their benefits, their rights that as human beings who are work have, and they should be able to exert their rights. So nowadays you can work from your own cell phone, or you can work from home, and that's fantastic, especially for home workers, people who can work from home or need to work from home. We have to do changes. I'm not scared of this. I've been killed once. 22 years ago. I can't even remember how long ago. I was shot They were trying to rob my vehicle. I was shot in the back, and that's why I am in a wheelchair. And the only thing I thought of when I arrived at the hospital, they asked me if I was allergic to anything, and I said I'm allergic to bullets. And I think I'm still allergic to bullets. So please, nobody use one. So with this, Mr. President, I want to express our appreciation. Thank you for what you've done for Ecuador, for the bilateral relationship with our groups. And I know we have a room full of people who will be buying the roses, the tuna, and the other things from Ecuador and visit Ecuador. So thank you very much. Oh, we have more than that. I ask everyone if you could remain in your seats so that the president may leave, and then afterwards we can all leave. Thank you.